Welcome back to TinyBlueGames. My name is, of course, Csaw or Chris, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV in 2021. Today we are talking about the Rising event. It's that time of year in Final Fantasy where I feel like almost every week I could do a event about a festival of some sort. There's certainly a bit of a bang, bang, bang at the end of summer here, and I get it. It's a very festive time of the year, and there's a lot of actual real-world holidays on top of Final Fantasy specific celebrations, so it does make a lot of sense. I always just have like that question in the back of my mind: do I make a video about the festival, or do I do something else because everyone's already covered it? I go back and forth. I mean, on the one hand, yes, you've probably already done the festival and the event yourself, so you probably don't really care to watch me do it over. So we're not going to do a playthrough of this one. We're going to do more of an ideological video about it. I know, very exciting. But I think this is a really good one to talk about because I think this is the smartest event I've ever played in an MMO. And this comes from someone who originally didn't love this event as much as I did other events in Final Fantasy XIV. And I think there's a really obvious reason for this is I didn't understand the purpose of it. I mean, take a step back. Pretend you're a new player who really doesn't know anything about Final Fantasy XIV. You don't know the history. You don't know that it was reborn. You don't know who championed it and all this jazz that has built it into the beautiful game it is now. If you didn't know any of that, and you went to play it expecting it to play like a Moonfire Fair or, a traditional Easter or, holiday event, the Rising event is kind of confusing because it's very simple, it's very to the point, and it revolves around a mysterious minstrel character that you don't really know much about, and it's just, there's not much going on. It's a very quick story. You kind of get teleported into this crazy, ether area where you listen and talk directly to this one person, and that's about it. And if you didn't know anything else, if you didn't dig any deeper, it would fall kind of flat. And I feel like that's exactly what happened the first time I played it. However, having played it multiple times now, having learnt how the game was reborn and why this event is put in place on the rebirth of the game, and to be fair, the game does do a pretty good job of explaining this. I originally played this back when I first transitioned to Final Fantasy XIV, and I was still getting the grasp of not skipping through every single chat box I see in an MMO, and not digging for additional information online or on YouTube and stuff like that. So a lot of things didn't land on me. I was just there for the rewards, and that's a noble pursuit in itself. Don't get me wrong. That's perfectly fine. If you're just there for the rewards, it's quick. It's like 15 minutes. You go in, you get out, you get your reward, you're done. And that in itself is one of the beautiful things about Final Fantasy events, is that if you're there for the main reward, if you're there for your polar bear from the Moonfire Fair, it doesn't take too long. You don't have to grind out for day and day and day to get this mount, which, it just becomes tedious. It becomes this thing that you fear every year. No. Final Fantasy events, they're beautiful. They have the one reward, and sometimes they have other stuff that you can earn, invest a bit more time if you're interested. But they're very respectful of your time, and I think that's such a key phrase in MMOs these days, when there's a game that respects your time versus one that tries to steal your time. And I'm not going to name names, but we can think of one who would want to do that. All this aside, though, back on topic, I think the Rising event is the smartest event in any MMORPG because it celebrates Final Fantasy XIV, but it celebrates not only its success, but its failure. It celebrates a time where the game was rebuilt, where 1.0 didn't work, and they relaunched into A Realm Reborn. And for those who haven't played, or for some reason don't know, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this audience that knows more than me, the mysterious character you talk to is, a developer. He's one of the lead visions for the game, and it's quite a heartfelt message that he's sharing. He's talking to you. He's thanking you, the player, for helping him grow this game into what it becomes. And he's humble. And if you know all of that, and you're able to understand that when he's saying it, it becomes something special. And then, if you know all of that, And he comes back each year and tells you a different message based on current events, based on how the game's doing, based on how the world's doing. It becomes even more special because the way Final Fantasy does cutscenes, the way they do their chat boxes and stuff like that, you feel very much that your character is engaging with this developer. It's like a one-on-one relationship, and they're using the MMO to build this relationship. It's doing what MMOs do best, except you're building a relationship with someone from the company. And that's so smart. That's so cool. You're getting invested in hoping he succeeds in, pushing Final Fantasy XIV to greater adventures. It's the absolute perfect event, and it makes you want to come back for more and more and more, and it keeps you happy and inspired about the game. And then, when you see this character not in-game, engaging with the real world and giving speeches and showing off new expansions and stuff like that, you have kind of this otherworldly bond with them. You're like, I know you from a different story where we were both dreaming, and it's special. It really is. And yeah, so I might have gotten pretty emotional after this Rising event, and that's weird for a MMO event, isn't it? It's weird to feel something. Like, yes, they're often funny. Yes, they're kind of like joyful. You can feel like kind of homely and like, the feeling of Christmas or Easter or kind of spooky during Halloween, if you will. But it's weird to feel such an emotional tie to the game, and I think that right there is what the Rising event does well. And there's only one other event that I kind of think of when I think of other MMOs, and people are gonna hate me for always making these comparisons. It was my first MMO, forgive me. MapleStory. MapleStory had the Maple Anniversary events, and it was the anniversary of the game. And for the first, I want to say 5 or 6 Maple Anniversaries, they would celebrate by having maple weapons drop in game. They would have different giant cakes in all the towns and stuff like that. It was a really big festival just celebrating the game itself and the players. And to be fair, it didn't have this level of connection on a one-on-one level with like a developer of any sort, and I think that is a step beyond that Final Fantasy XIV does. But the sentiments of just enjoying the game and being happy and celebrating the game is something that I think was captured in MapleStory's event as well, and I think both of these MMOs have done really well with that. I think Final Fantasy XIV's is the true level of perfection, not only because I actually play Final Fantasy XIV now, and MapleStory I've not heavily played in a really long time, but I think it is that level of emotion that they put, and now I'm actively excited to see what is said during the next Rising event. I want to see it, and compared to all of the other Final Fantasy XIV events, I'm more interested in the interaction with this NPC as opposed to anything to do with the rewards, whereas the other events are great, but I'm there for my polar bear, I'm there for my mount, I'm there for my, hat or headpiece or whatever it is. I think that's a next level for an event, to be more tied emotionally. And don't get me wrong for a second, I think the emotional ties in a lot of the other events in Final Fantasy XIV are done better than most MMOs. They do a really good job of carrying on stories from past years, keeping the same characters going, getting you invested. But this is the next level, and I think it truly is the smartest event of any MMO right now. And I'd like to open the floor to discussion to disprove that. If you have a event in an MMO that you think is better, and there could be, I haven't played all the MMOs, I haven't played all the events. I know Guild Wars 2 does a lot of really good events. They do, the Halloween and Christmas, they do it exceptionally well. I'd say they do those events better than any other MMO. But I don't know if they have a unique event that is ultimately better than any MMO. And who knows? Maybe I'll eat my words. But yeah, this is kind of a all over the place video, and I wanted to do that because my most recent video last Saturday was a comparison video where it was very scripted, very to the point, even to the point where I scripted everything, tried to talk really fast, and it was still like 40 minutes long. So I wanted a quick, breezy, emotional, all over the place video, and this is what you got today. I completed the Rising event, and I just pushed record on Audacity and did this. And I think it's a nice, different feeling. It's nice to have a mix of both of them, and hopefully you feel that way too. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, please consider liking. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.